What's up, beautiful souls? It's Candace Cody Jones, licensed marriage and family therapist associate in Texas, also known as the Spiritual Bestie. And this is Real Talk with the Spiritual Bestie.
You are now tuned in to Real Talk with the Spiritual Bestie.
Hey, y'all. Welcome back. Welcome to Real Talk with the Spiritual Bestie, the podcast where we explore spiritual autonomy, esoteric wisdom, astrology, and mental health. I'm your host, Candace Cody Jones, also known as the Spiritual Bestie. And whether this is your first time checking me out on YouTube or you've been listening to me for a while from your favorite streaming platform, thank you for sliding through. I appreciate it. This podcast is about intentional soul work. This is an invitation to reclaim sovereignty over our minds, bodies, and spirits. And in this space, it's safe to explore yourself, heal, and collect the fragments of your soul that have been lost through trauma and life experiences. So I want to welcome y'all. We're going to get right into the cards today and talk about the numerology of these cards. And then we're going to talk about some astrological happenings as well. Okay. So our first card that came up was the Lover's card. It came up in reverse. And the Lover's card is really about partnership. It's about deep connections. It's that soul connection. It is really energy of energetic flow and communion and sacredness. It's the Lover's card, right? So when we think about love, we think about that harmonious energy. We think about partnership and togetherness, but it came up in reverse as we see. And with this reversal, this energy is coming in to bring awareness to the ways that maybe we shut out opportunities for partnership or connection, maybe out of fear. I see a lot of that happening where we've been hurt, we've been damaged. And because of that, we move from a space of fear. And I like to ask people when I'm seeing them in therapy if they're moving out of fear or out of love. And sometimes just having that question as a base for really checking in with our behaviors and our responses, it can really shed light on how we're moving and whether or not we're being led by fear, which usually blocks us from opportunities and from moments where we can really have clarity or connection. And when we move through love, even in moments like setting boundaries, is something that we can do with real awareness and also real clarity when we're moving in that way. So the Lover's card is coming through really to pose a question of what ways are you currently blocking the opportunity for connection? Are you moving out of fear or out of love? Our second card is the Ace of Staffs. It came up in reverse as well. We got a lot of reversals this week, okay? And the Ace of Staffs is really about that inner passion. It is about that inner fire. And we see it coming through with this big hand, right? And this fire that usually comes through with the Ace of Staffs is our drive. It's our dream. It's our ministry, so to speak. So with it coming in reverse, it's really challenging whether or not we are in full connection and full commitment to the things that we're called to do in this life. And again, moving out of fear or out of love. And this is giving moving out of fear. So this is an opportunity to really check in with the ways that maybe you have been maybe dimming your own light, maybe even stifling or blocking your own energetic flow. So this is a great opportunity. This card is coming through to really ask us to sit with that and to really challenge ourselves to look at ourselves with full awareness and honesty in the ways that we may be dimming our light or we may not be following our calling. Our next card is the 9 energy coming through from the Hermit. And the Hermit is one that really calls us to go within. This is a card that's really inviting us to go within, to really seek inner clarity, to not so much look for answers from other people or validation from other people, but really going within. And when the Hermit comes up, it represents that deep spiritual journey that so many of us take that often leads us to moments of solitude because we're on this journey. And even in life, as we're moving through our different experiences, there are moments when we're called into solitude. We're called to walk certain paths, parts of the path alone. And sometimes that can make us feel a little bitter. It can make us feel a little bit forgotten about, even. But really check in with the fact that right now you may be being called to solitude, maybe by force, not by choice, but it's because there is something very important that spirit wants to give you in this moment or teach you or show you. And this is a journey where a lot of self reliance is required, and not in a way that is hyper independent. It's really a necessary part of the journey that you're being called to right now. Our last tarot card is the Four of Swords in reverse. Again, we had 3 out of 4 cards today in reverse. And the Four of Swords in reverse is a two-part message. It's a call out of the space of really tussling and fighting against what we're called to do. And really, that tussle of those internal thoughts, those internal feelings, really that battle that sometimes happens, but also the surrender that occurs. When this card comes in reverse, it's a card of surrender. It really is a card that when the Four of Swords comes in upright, it represents us just surrendering, laying it all on the table, really just surrendering to the journey, to whatever it is that we're called to do. But when this card comes up in reverse, it's almost the opposite, like a battle. We're really fighting against surrendering. And maybe that's happening because you're in a space that you don't really want to be in, right? Again, this hermit energy coming through is saying that you are on an individual journey. So with the Four of Swords coming through there, it's speaking to the resistance that's happening right now with really traveling this path in solitude as you're called to in this moment. So check in with that. Our oracle cards today, we got the first card, which is Restore and Replenish. And this is really an opportunity for us to really look a little differently at this journey right here. These 2 cards really are connected in the energy that they're bringing. And a lot of what's happening on this solitude journey is that what's happening is you're being moved out of the movement, the activity, and the chaos in this moment of your journey, and into a space where you can really restore and replenish yourself. Our other oracle card is the Queen of Sheba. She comes through with this energy of really revelation and clarity. Really, things that have been hidden are being revealed to you right now. Trust what's coming in those messages. Trust what's coming in your dreams. Really sit with those things and really take a moment after you've had, those really lucid and active dreams. Take a moment to really reflect on and pay attention to the symbolism of your dreams, the messages that have come through, the people that might have shown up in your dreams, and things are being revealed. A lot of it can be revealed to you in the dream space, but also pay attention to your waking life and really taking note of what's happening around you. And that requires us to slow down and take our time and really pay attention and hone in to what it is that's happening and what we're experiencing. So those are our cards. And I want to give you the numerology of our tarot cards because that's also really important for today's message. The number 1 is the divine initiator. This, the core energy of it is beginnings, it's newness, it's identity. It's also leadership energy that comes through. And it's, really with this Ace of Staffs coming in reverse, upright, it's giving that one energy of the spark, that internal flame that's being sparked. And because sometimes we're in a space of resistance around what's happening, sometimes again dimming our light. But this energy of the number one that comes through specifically for the Ace of Staves is about connecting with that inner spark. It's the energy of creation, it's independence, and not in a way that removes us from community, but it is our independence. It's the me in we, okay? And it's also a call to step into who you are, stepping wholly, truly, fiercely, unapologetically into your own identity, into yourself. And this is a space in the number one where our ideas are born, our paths are being forged for us. And these are the moments where we're chosen for a certain thing in our experience. The spiritual essence around the number one is it's the beginning, right? And really we can say that zero is the origin, right? But after the fetus has formed into a being, the I am is born. And that's where we are in this stage when the number one shows up. It also represents for us alignment with ourselves, alignment with our calling, with the divine will over what we're called to do in this life. And when we see the number one show up, if we're in more of a shadow energy, and it can be a takeover of our ego. It can cause us to operate out of that fear and begin to isolate or forcibly try to control every aspect of our experience. And it also brings a fear of vulnerability with it. So when you notice the number one, when you feel that one energy, you're being called to really engage with something new. You're called to trust yourself in that moment and really take initiative without waiting for someone to give you permission, without waiting for someone to validate you. It is really thinking, as a leader. It's the newness, it's new beginnings, and it's really stepping into an energy of inner trust, trusting yourself, trusting the wisdom that you've picked up along the way, and moving forward into your own personal identity. The number four came with our four of swords, which came in reverse. And this is the energy of the sacred builder. Okay, the four is about stability, it's structure, it's discipline, because all of that's required to build something that can withstand the test of time and withstand the storms of life. And the number four is an energy of foundation. It really is one that brings order. It calls for systems to be put in place. And then there's a requirement of consistency to whatever the number one has brought in for us. So the number four is about building something that lasts, that stands the test of time. And in the spiritual sense of the essence of the number four, it's also, bringing in the energy of the four elements. It's really strong earth energy as well. It's a grounding energy that really kind of connects us and links the spiritual and physical world together. And when we operate or see the number four from a shadow side of things, it can bring energy, and we can notice energy of rigidity in our experience. Those are when we see the number four and we are out of alignment or we need to recalibrate things, we might feel stuck. We can also feel overworked. Maybe we're doing too much and not incorporating enough rest and enough restoration, as we've been called to rest and replenish as well. And also with the number four, we can notice when we're out of alignment that we're resistant to change. And change is something we can't escape. It's absolutely going to happen. We're going to experience change. But with the number four, we're being asked to really ground ourselves. We're being asked in this moment to bring some structure to things, create a system, put a system in place that works for you. I work with a lot of clients that are neurodivergent and have ADHD and things like that. And a lot of times, the ways that I support them is by helping them to create systems for themselves. Because without these things, that energy of shame and guilt and regret can really set in and then carry us in a spiral down into the depths of depression. So this is a call and reminder to create structure for yourself. find and create a system that works and lean on that system to carry you through. Trust the system. And when you're creating a system, it's always a good idea to think about how in your heaviest days, what are the least amount of things that you can accomplish and get done. That's the way you really want to structure your system, because you can get more done when you have more energy. But on those low energy days, if you've created this, really detailed, high energy, intricate system that requires a lot of, pouring out of yourself, it may be a real struggle to stick with the system and be consistent with it. So you want to create a system for yourself where on your low energy days, you're still able to, at minimum, get these things done or accomplish these things or move through the system in that way. And when you think about the number 4, it's really about building, stabilizing, and committing to the things that are important to you, the things that you value, your goals, your calling, your career, your relationships. So, our number 6 energy, again, this was our lover's card, okay, that came in reverse. And it is really heart centered work. This is big heart chakra energy. It's bringing a vibe of love, responsibility as well, harmony. There's also some duality in that. It is kind of those, it's really reflective. I feel like the number 6 and the lover's card are really reflective of each other. It's a multiplying energy. And the number 6 is a nurturer. So it really comes in as a balm for us when we are needing some emotional care, some love, some safety. It also calls for emotional depth from us, and also for us to really connect and really get into what it is that's being built, and not necessarily going on autopilot or really dissociating. And when we notice that, with that shadow side of things, a lot of times it's speaking to us overpouring, overdoing, overgiving. Those moments where we really tend to fall into those people pleasing habits, where maybe we lack boundaries, and that leads to us being burnt out. So the essence of the number 6 is really heart chakra centered, as I said. It's really the action of love. Love is a verb. So the number 6 is an action card. It is an action. Love is an action word, and that's the energy that it's bringing. And when we get into action, it brings a restoration of balance for us, where maybe prior we've had maybe some emotional or relational imbalance. So when you notice the number 6 and the energy that it's carrying, you're being called to really evaluate and create more harmony in your relationships, in particular, in your exchanges. As we look at the lover's card upright, we can see that they are in harmony. There's an exchange that's happening for them in this moment. And so we're being called into that. Because it came up in reverse, it's speaking more to how we're showing up maybe in this shadow energy of overgiving, people pleasing, really, leading us into these emotional burnouts. And because of a lack of boundaries, we really carry ourselves through into that energy. And before we know it, we've looked up and we feel like, nobody cares. We feel like we've been betrayed, and we can become really resentful because we didn't have boundaries, or we were looking to please people in hopes of them showing up differently for us. And a lot of times that's highlighting those emotional wounds that we're carrying. I do a lot of work with couples around and notice this six energy in its shadow error. And really that lovers in reverse is something that's really big, particularly with couples, because a lot of times one is, people pleasing, lax in boundaries, afraid to really speak their truth or speak up for themselves. And then later on, you see resentment building because their partner isn't showing up in the way that they expected or wanted or needed. But, those boundaries and really balance in the emotional outpour is really also necessary, along with vulnerability. It requires real vulnerability to be in partnership with someone. And so that is a big call with this energy. Also, when you see the number 6, it is about really engaging in this harmonious care within your relationships and for others, but without abandoning yourself and your own needs. This is care, nurture, and harmony, but with balance. Our last number is the number 9. The number 9 is a very wise integrative energy. It is about completion. It's a closing of a chapter. It's a finishing of things. And when I sat with these cards and noticed the number 9 coming up, I thought about some completions that I had entered in this new calendar year, and even into, the retrograde season and the eclipse season. And I noticed that that energy was really present for me in my own experience. And it really is, when we see the number 9, a moment of endings and chapters being closed, but it comes with a lot of wisdom, and it's an opportunity for a release at the end. And maybe some of that includes grief. I've been talking about that. I talk about it in the next episode, and I've talked about it in the previous episode, because that energy has been coming through really heavily. Like, there is an energy of grief that collectively we're experiencing. And 9 is a closing chapter. It represents those endings. It also represents integration and really taking a higher perspective and really being able to look at things almost in the way I describe it in sessions. It's like looking over like a Monopoly board. When you look over the board, that, the game of life, so to speak, and you're able to really see all of the pieces, where they are, how they're moving, it brings so much clarity, and it brings it gives you an opportunity for a different vantage point. And it gives you an opportunity to really step outside of yourself and really view, how things are moving in your experience. And that brings higher perspective. It brings clarity, and it can carry peace with it as well when you have a better and more of a depth of understanding of what's actually happening. So when we see the number 9, it's asking us to let go of the things that no longer align, and do it with love, do it with grace, do it with peace. But it's time to let go of some things. So the spiritual essence of number 9 is really like, it's an elder energy. If we look at the Hermit card, the Hermit looks like an elder. Like, they have been some places, they have seen some things, they have done some things. This is not their first time taking a journey on their own. The sun is setting on some things in their personal journey, in their experience, and they are carrying this torch, because it does sometimes feel a little dark when things are ending, when chapters are closing. The Hermit and the spiritual essence is also like a humanitarian, and it's about really transcending and moving past the ego and serving a higher purpose. And I can tell you firsthand that definitely was a huge lesson for me at the beginning of this year. It's just moving out of the ego, allowing things to close naturally. Kind of like those little auto garbage cans, you wave your hand over them, and the way that these chapters are closing right now, we're being called to just release them. And it's okay to grieve what we are having to release, or what's ending, what chapters are closing. But when we operate in the shadow side of things with the number 9, it becomes a struggle. We have real difficulty with letting things go. And with that comes this emotional heaviness. It can be martyrdom type energy. And it also represents us holding on to the past, whether it be positive or negative. This is a moment for us to really release and let go of things, let go of what's exiting, because holding on and trying to pull it back into our experience or into our lives is not going to make it stay. This is a chapter that's closing. So when you feel or when you notice the number 9 showing up, you're being called to release. You're being called to let things go with love, step into forgiveness, and really move into this new evolution of who you are. This is about releasing, integrating, and evolving as chapters close. Now, the way that these numbers kind of come full circle together is that the number 1, and let me grab my card again, and I'll hold it upright even though it came in reverse, but the number 1 is the beginning of the journey. It's the idea, it's the vision, and then the spark is ignited, right? And with that, we make a decision. We make a decision to then move forward into building, into structuring, into spaces of discipline, and really structuring the foundation and really committing to the process. And then when we see the number 6 coming up, it's bringing our heart into the space. It's bringing, the things that are really deeply personal for us. It's connected to our relationships and care and emotional alignment. And then the 9 completes things because then we're on this journey of releasing, but also reflection and elevation. And as that wisdom flows through, it's such a beautiful thing when we allow it to just happen. And so you begin with the 1 where you're building, you go into this nurturing space of really harnessing and cultivating and really pouring into the vision that you're given. And then with the 6, you're called to release the things that aren't serving that vision so that you can evolve into that 9 energy as the cycle renews. So I thought it was really beautiful that we got these cards in today's session. And it's really about trusting the vision that you're given, getting grounded in the reality of what's coming up, aligning yourself with love and pouring intention into what you do and how you do it and how you release and let things close and let things go. And then also how when you're just in this space of knowing when to let go, knowing when to release things and just move forward and rise higher. Because sometimes what you don't realize is that the things that we're holding on to may be out of comfort, maybe out of time invested and feeling like it's going to reflect or be a waste of time if you let it go now or if you release it. But in reality, it's just time to let it go. And when we allow that to happen, what happens is the things that are connected to that may be holding us in this cycle or holding us back are then released. And so are we, to rise higher, to elevate, and to move forward. So remember that not everything we start is meant to last forever. Things come to an end, chapters close, but everything that we build, nurture, and release really teaches us something that helps to evolve us into the next higher, wiser, purer versions of ourselves. And we need that for this experience. We really do. Let's pause for a quick commercial break. What's up, beautiful souls? It's Candace Cody Jones, licensed marriage and family therapy associate in Texas with a special virtual offering for Black women in Texas. Listen, Black women, we need each other. We're struggling in sisterhood, in finding community, navigating relationships, past and current trauma, religion and spirituality, mental health diagnosis, and carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders. And when we look around, there are not enough sacred, protected, safe spaces for Black women. As a result, a lot of Black women are suffering in silence and isolation. And that's why I created Self-Care Sunday. It's group therapy meets healing circle. We'll be connecting through poetry, music, art, meditation, vision boards, and more. If you're a Black woman in Texas, you can join us by going to my website, evolutionsmentalhealthandwellness.com/groups. Join me. If you're a Black woman in Texas, you need to be there. If you know a Black woman in Texas, let her know about this group because she needs to be there. Peace. Let's get back to the pod. So I want to share the herb of today's episode, and the herb is holy basil. And I'm going to give y'all the spiritual and physical properties. Holy basil is a really powerful powerful. Like, I feel like it's not spoken up enough when it comes to spiritual work, but Holy Basil really supports spiritual, emotional, and physical clarity, resilience, and regulation. It's a regulatory herb. It really comes in and it carries protective properties. It's a purifying herb. It really helps us to really fall into that self trust and really stand confidently in that. And it's an herb of spiritual attunement and alignment, and it really helps to put us in a space, in a place where not only are we protected and things become clear, but also we're aligned with spirit. And it's a harmonious herb. It's a really strong herb that doesn't get spoken about enough, in my opinion, because it brings clarity and awareness. And it really can also help with improving your meditative and spiritual practices. So when you're on a spiritual journey, it's a great herb for spiritual growth and emotional healing because of its powerful energy of clarity and emotional regulation that it carries with it. A few of the physical uses. And let me preface this by saying, be mindful when using these herbs, when ingesting these herbs. Um, Always check to see if any of the herbs that I recommend in any episodes may counteract, I should say, with your other medications. Check with your doctor because this is not medical advice. I'm just sharing with you how the herb has been used, and it should not be used with blood pressure medications, insulin, or sedatives. So make sure that you check with your doctor before using any herbs that I share in the podcast, because I am not liable or responsible for what you decide to do. I am just sharing the insight of the herbs. For the physical uses of holy basil, also known as Tulsi, I didn't say that, but it is good for the skin because it's an antioxidant and it's a natural antibacterial as well. So when you use it for your skin, it can really help you clear acne. It can help protect your skin against, the stressors because it's an adaptogen. It can support the skin in stressful environments. And this also makes this herb really good for wound care. Some people make a salve and they apply it directly to the skin if they have like a wound or a rash. And it also is a great herb for supporting hormonal balance for women. It's great for your blood sugar regulation. It supports the regulatory system and the heart system. So with that, it can help reduce your cholesterol levels. It can help with high blood pressure and inflammation. It can also be used for hemorrhoids too. And it supports stress relief and immune function. And so it is just a really beautiful and powerful herb. I encourage you to look into it, see how you can use it. You can always smudge with an herb like holy basil. You can add it to maybe a particular prayer oil that you may dress your candles with. You can also, make a tea out of it and use it in a spiritual bath, or just having it around. It allows that herb to really interact with your environment and really allows those properties of the herb to really be present in your everyday experience. So it's a great herb. Take a look at it, look it up for yourself, and check it out. I love holy basil. It does not get talked about enough. So I wanted to highlight it today as an herb for today's discussion. Let's get into our astro and talk a little bit about that. And I'll also have journal prompts for you later on. You can find those in the show notes. So those will be in the show notes. And I want to get into some of the energy of the beginning of the month. Let me apologize because last month when I recorded, I've been trying to record podcast episodes ahead. And I was all the way kind of sitting with the energy of April before March was even over. I told y'all before on the podcast, I be in a time loop sometimes. So I was a whole month ahead. And when I realized that after posting the episode on YouTube and on podcast platforms, I was like, oh, wait a minute. I'm a little ahead of myself. So I wanted to pull that episode. I will release it again after this episode later on this month. But April is a month of new engagements. It is bringing big opportunities for us to really work on and build our self confidence and our self empowerment. And it's giving on the job training as well, because we're going to make mistakes along the way. I mean, we're not perfect. And as we're learning and engaging new skills in life, we're bound to make mistakes. So it comes also with some encouragement, and I'm giving this encouragement today to really allow yourself some grace and compassion as you make these mistakes, because when we are, really learning and moving forward in life and taking these lessons and trying on new things, it's a lot like riding a bike for the very first time, because it can be really frustrating. And we may even find ourselves during this month, and we'll talk about why, but we may find ourselves really questioning our own decision making, questioning things, and really having those moments where we are feeling, uncertain about how we're moving. That may cause us to second guess ourselves. So we have Mars in Aries on April 9th, and we may notice during this time a desire to really compete. Again, that inner fire is being sparked. And I don't find it odd that the Ace of Staffs came in reverse today, because that's the energy that we're being pulled into and called into. So when we're dimming our lights, what we're doing is actually depleting our own energy source. And so we're being called to harness that energy and make sure that we're putting it in the right place. And if you're in spaces where you feel like you have to dim your light, you're in the wrong spaces. And I had to learn that the hard way. So make sure that when you are engaging, your energy, that it's balanced, right? Because sometimes that flame can burn a little bit out of control. So we really want to bring some balance into it and make sure that we're not dimming our own light, but we're not burning out of control either. And we're officially into this new year with Saturn and Neptune hanging out in Aries, which that's been happening since about mid-February. So we just had the full moon in Libra on the 1st, and that was a reminder at that time to really balance that energy, as I've been talking about. And it's also bringing, some energy of decision making and an energetic balance with some chapters closing as we move through the energy. And that, I think, has been a theme for the last couple of episodes. And it's just the season that we're in right now. And this Mars energy really is getting us in go mode, because it's bringing like this motivation and moments of processing and reflection. And with that wisdom that we're sitting with, it's going to spark and inspire movement and action. And during this time, you may notice some heightened passion, really just like, I want to say, really like a boost of courage. And that is going to also bring some direction and clarity, but really rapid movement as well. So during this time, be mindful of your temper. Take time to process what you're feeling instead of just speeding past those emotions as they come up, because this is also an opportunity to reflect on what has changed for you over the past few months of this calendar year. And we're going to talk more about that in the journal prompts, but this is an opportunity to really take a pause, because we're in a new season. And in our last episode, I encouraged you to get reflective. And this is kind of like, bringing a little reminder, if you haven't done that already, to really reflect on how so far in this first season of the year, during that winter of the calendar year, I should say, because we're technically in the first season of the year. But in those winter months and in the beginning of the calendar year, really taking a moment to reflect on what you notice, especially during that eclipse and the eclipse and retro season, really like reflecting on what's changed for you. How have you changed over the last few months? Later this month, we're going to have a new moon in Aries, and that's going to be on the 17th. And that's going to be just before the Saturn-Mars conjunction, which I jumped ahead of. So our next episode is going to be about the Saturn-Mars conjunction, and we'll talk about more of that energy in the next episode. But at this time, there's this theme, as I said earlier today, of a me and we, the me and we. And it's really strong this month with these transits as they're moving through, because this Aries energy is really coming to help us with our confidence, with taking action, and it's supporting us in reclaiming our personal power and our autonomy, which is a huge theme of the podcast itself. And this energy just gets amplified as Mars begins to move into Aries on April 9th. So with this energy, we may feel, again, that those internal kind of questioning, really second guessing ourselves or wondering if our decision making is right. And we'll also feel pulled during this time. And the encouragement is to sit with your decisions, really sit with them before you make a decision. Don't just make a knee-jerk reactive decision, but really kind of take a moment of pausing to really sit with it. And, ask yourself some questions about, the decision that you're making. Am I being led through fear or through love? And when you are able to sit with that question and answer it honestly, it will bring more, I think, more ease and more of a relaxed energy to making your decisions. And it can also clarify whether you're moving in the right direction or not. The invitation during this time is to really be flexible. Don't do too much, and when I say don't do too much, how we get when we start to panic. How we get when we start to panic, we're just kind of pulling at everything, doing everything. Again, when our stress levels are high, we go into that survival mode. And when we go into that mode, our executive functioning is just shutting down. So in those moments, be flexible, don't resist change, just allow the flow of things. Don't panic, get still, go within, because that's where you're going to find the truth, because the truth is already in you. The answers are already in you. And sometimes we need spaces where we can really reflect on those things, where we can really get them out. And, verbally getting them out is really helpful. Getting them out in journaling can be really helpful as well. So therapeutic spaces are great spaces to really sit with our decisions and really reflect on them. And also, in a therapeutic environment, you should be able to have a space, if you have a good therapist, where, if you have a good therapist, where you can really have that reflective questioning to come up to allow you space where you can actually sort through the thoughts and the emotions and really get some clarity on your decisions. So I want to talk about Aries for a little bit, because Aries is our inner hero. That's our inner warrior. It's the go-getter energy that we carry within ourselves. And it's really always an energy about initiation and movement. And Aries really wants to get things done. Like, Aries is the doer, the go-getter. And it makes sense, because having Mars and Aries, as collaborators, really speaks to the energy that it brings. And also it can speak to the shadow energy of it as well, when we don't have balance, when that energy rolls through. So Mercury is going to enter Mars on the 14th. Be aware of that. And that may also kind of bring moments where we are really in rapid movement, but also maybe some spontaneity with it, which is not a bad thing. But also with Mercury entering Mars, we may notice some snappy energy, some snappy responses. So in the words of Whitney Houston,
say, watch what the you say.
Okay. And I think when we give ourselves an opportunity to really take our time with it and slow ourselves down and not operate just off of this high emotional energy that's going to come through, because that fire and that passion are going to be burning. It can keep us safe, it can keep us sane, and it can keep us out of trouble, if nothing else. Okay. Also, we're going to have the sun entering Taurus, and that's going to bring some possessive energy with it as well. And it can also bring some thoughts and questions around loyalty and, grounding, and really an encouragement to stay grounded, which is going to be very necessary. It's going to be a really important coping skill to have when this energy moves through, because we know that Taurus likes to dig their heels in. So with this, it's a reminder, stay grounded, but be flexible at the same time. So I want to get into our journal questions as we wrap up today's episode. So our first journal prompt is, where in my life am I being asked to trust myself more, even without certainty? It's giving big faith energy, okay? This question is really centered around self-trust and that inner authority, really being the captain of our own journey. And it's really about moving from external validation into that inner guidance and listening to our own intuition and really, doing that even when the path isn't clear. So our second journal prompt is, what mistakes am I afraid to make and what meaning am I attaching to them? This will really cause you to sit with your fear. It'll cause you to sit with that energy of perfectionism that sometimes we carry, and really cause you to really attach some meaning to how you're moving. This journal prompt is all about exploring how fear shapes our decisions and our identity, and really taking us on a journey of uncovering our own stories and the things that may no longer serve us. Number 3, where am I feeling the urge to compete? And is it coming from alignment or insecurity? This question is really about really sitting with comparison, competition, and alignment, and really taking notice of competitive energy and determination, and really finding out and asking yourself whether it supports your purpose or if it's something that's really rooted in self-doubt and maybe even a little low self-esteem, because that is a part of the journey sometimes. Number 4, what emotions have I been moving too fast to actually feel and process? This question, journal prompt, I should say, is all about emotional processing and really like that awareness of our nervous systems. And I want to encourage you, when you sit with this question, to really slow down. Feel your emotions completely and fully. Take notice of them, really sit with them. I will throw a feelings wheel into the show notes as well. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and put that feelings wheel up in the video. And this is an opportunity for you to really slow down and connect with your emotions. And in doing that, you can begin cultivating intentional presence and more self-awareness. Number 5, how have I changed since the beginning of the year, and what am I proud of? This is an opportunity to reflect as we're entering this new year. Well, as we've entered this new year, it's an opportunity for us to really reflect on our growth, on our self-acknowledgement also. Like, it is something that's really necessary. And sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit, because if things don't go the way that we expected them to, then we feel like the whole mission was a failure. But this is an opportunity to really recognize your own personal growth and honor your process and really build some self-trust through, an exercise of reflection. Number 6, what decision am I currently sitting with, and what is my intuition quietly saying about it? We have to get still at times to engage that intuition. And this journal prompt is about self-trust and really connecting with our own inner authority. And so the purpose of this prompt is to help you tune into your inner guidance and to really set you up for making aligned decisions, even when the outcome isn't certain, because that's a huge part of the journey. And we're not guaranteed certainty of success. And sometimes when we feel like we have failed, the reality is we need to sit with the wisdom that we've gained from that experience to really get the fuller picture of, that particular cycle or the lessons that came with it. Number 7, where am I being called to reclaim my power and choose myself more fully? This prompt is about self-trust and, again, more of that inner authority. It's about a reclamation of agency, of autonomy, stepping into your personal power, and really prioritizing your own needs and growth in this process. Number 8 in our last and final journal prompt is, what does it look like for me to slow down, get still, and respond instead of react? I saved this one for last because it's an exercise. It's a journal exercise of emotional processing and really bringing that awareness to our nervous system. And it's an invitation to practice mindful responses over impulsive reactions when things don't go the way that we expected them to. And this allows integration of peace and calm and clarity before we move into action. So those are our journal prompts. I want to jump into our Dear Spiritual Bestie letter. If you want to send questions for me to read or answer in our podcast, you can email them to me at candy@thespiritualbestie.com. All right, let me get into this letter. My boyfriend and I have been together for about 4 years. The first 6 months together were perfect. After we moved in together at 6 months, I feel like he changed dramatically. We hardly have sex, and when we do, it's only when he's drunk. That's interesting and telling, but I'll continue. I'm gonna break this down here in a moment. We don't travel or talk about anything deep. He isn't romantic and doesn't give me affection or compliments. It feels selfish. People ask me why I've stayed this long. We've accomplished a lot of goals together, and I thought maybe we had gotten too busy or he was depressed or something, but he always has time for his friends. He's a great provider, and I don't think he's cheating or ever would. He's just not that type of guy. He's a really great guy on that part, and I got comfortable. The other thing that bothers me is that he's too passive, and I don't understand why he can't see my side of things or even try to meet my needs now because he did before. I feel like I do all of the emotional work in this relationship. I'm pretty chill, down to earth, and easygoing, and I've been told by all my past relationships that I'm a great girlfriend. I hope you didn't tell him that. We had a serious talk about a few months ago, and I told him that he needed to put in more effort or I was going to be out. Nothing changed. A month after our talk, he proposed, and I told him no. He told me he thought everything was cool after we talked, but I wasn't settled with things. Now he's saying I always blame him and want him to change, and that it's not him, it's me. He's a great person, but could be a better partner. I know he's hurt, but it's not like I blindsided him. He thinks he's a great partner because he goes to work every day and doesn't cheat. I feel like that's the bare minimum, and I just don't understand why he doesn't understand. I'm not asking for anything major. I just want to feel loved and wanted. I love him a lot, and I hate to give up on things because I feel like, okay. I want to start by something that jumped out to me at the beginning of the letter, and y'all heard me pause. Hardly having sex, and when you do, he's drunk. That to me speaks to some level of confidence or comfort around sex. And maybe, sometimes if people come into a relationship and they're not as experienced sexually, it can, cause them, especially if, they're really into you or really feel highly attracted to you, it can really cause some confidence issues to surface. As far as you all not really having deep conversations or, traveling, which are kind of two different things, the travel thing may be something that maybe he's not a traveler, maybe he doesn't like traveling, and maybe you do, and that's okay. But there definitely should be some effort. Now, I don't really want to take sides. I'm only getting one side of the story, But the fact that y'all haven't talked about anything deep, I really wonder if you've brought up any deeper topics or have you initiated any deeper conversation? Because when I hear, a statement like that, I really wonder, like, what role have you played? Also, in this, I didn't see you taking any accountability for any parts of the relationship. And that also is something that maybe he's picking up on, that yeah, maybe he is not perfect, right? Nobody is in a relationship. But I think it's also important for us to be, self aware of how we show up in relationships and how the other person may be experiencing us. Not that either one of you is the problem. The issue is that y'all are disconnected and y'all are having challenges and issues with connecting emotionally with one another. And that's something that's really common in relationships because communication can be challenging and difficult in relationships, especially if you don't have a lot of positive romantic relationships to really like look at, right? Or to really use as a guide or a gauge for how positive and healthy romantic relationships flow. So you also said he isn't romantic and doesn't give you affection or compliments. I can definitely see how that can be a problem or an issue for you because I think sometimes in partnerships, there can be one partner that doesn't put as much of a priority on a certain thing like travel or romance or affection. But if it's a need that's there, it's important for y'all to be in sync with what each other needs to feel whole and completed and seen in a relationship. Um, you said that y'all have accomplished a lot of goals together. And sometimes I do find that in relationships that one partner may be really pressured or feel pressured, I should say, to, see things through, particularly in heterosexual, I should say heteronormative relationships. A lot of times I notice that with men, they are more focused on getting things done, and they are a lot of times can be disconnected from the emotional aspects of a relationship because maybe they were taught that men don't show emotion. I hear that a lot. Or they were taught that, men don't express themselves, that you just take care of home, get things done, and that's your responsibility and that's your role. So with that, if he's carrying that kind of pressure internally and feeling like he can't express himself or feeling emotionally, suppressed or stunted, that can show up in that energy that you said where you thought he was depressed, but he's also really busy accomplishing things and getting things done, like working and taking care of you because you said he's a great provider. Also, the other thing with that is I think that sometimes we don't give enough credit to the pressure that each partner feels and the burden, not that the relationship is a burden, but the weights and the burdens that they each individually carry around identity and around their role in a relationship. So when you say that you thought he was depressed and he's a great provider, it just makes me wonder how much pressure he feels to be a provider. And so everything else has to take a back seat. You said that he's not a cheater, which is a great thing. And it sounds like as a core characteristic, that's a great characteristic. But you also said that you feel like you got comfortable. And sometimes when we're being taken care of in ways that we haven't before, we feel like, we kind of settle, and we then find ourselves, we kind of look up and ask ourselves, like, how did I get here? How did I get into this space where now my relationship feels like just we're roommates with common goals financially, but we're really misaligned when it comes to our emotional connection or the intimacy in our relationships? You also said that he's too passive. And again, that signaled to me that there may be some underlying emotional stunting or invalidation that he's experienced. And maybe he's just not like a super high energy person, but that's kind of some of the things that you said have really hinted to me that he may have some emotional suppression, and maybe he is, previously not been able to express himself or not found safety in being able to express himself or say how he feels or speak his mind or set boundaries for himself. And so with that, you a lot of times will see a person that's passive or withdrawn. And usually that signals to me as a couples therapist that there could be some, very likely some emotional trauma that's occurred. And with him, previously taking care of your needs and now he's not, I really wonder what happened in between that, what changed, right? Sometimes what we think are small conversations really shift the dynamics in a relationship and really impact, people differently. So I would really want to know a little bit more about what happened previously between y'all moving in, which 6 months is pretty quick. I feel like the representative that shows up at the beginning of a relationship is still very much present in a relationship at the 6 months. So it may also be that you didn't fully have an opportunity to really get to know him and really feel him out before y'all moved into like a major thing, like moving in together. Um, you say you do all of the emotional work in the relationship, which sounds very exhausting. And I find that working with couples where one person is doing all of the emotional labor, they're usually the pursuer. They're usually the ones that are like, come on, talk to me, come on, connect to me and connect with me. And the more aggressive one partner is, and I'm not saying that you are aggressive, I'm just using this as an example of patterns that I notice in couples work, the more kind of push or pull that the partner that is really vocal and that is more comfortable expressing their emotional needs or their other needs, the more that happens, the more withdrawn the other partner becomes, because it then causes them to really become dysregulated and overwhelmed because there are additional demands. And that if they're struggling with carrying the demands of their role as they see it already, their responsibilities, what they feel internally they're supposed to be doing, adding that can also be bringing in some emotional overwhelm for them. You said that also you've been told in your past relationships that you're a great girlfriend. And it makes me really wonder, well, what happened to those relationships? Because every relationship is different. And it sounds like you really care, like you have probably some really great qualities, but I hope you didn't say that to him. Because again, if you're, not every partner can handle hearing that kind of conversation or comparison. Like, my last relationship or my ex, and the reality is that they're your exes for a reason. Not to say that they weren't being truthful or honest, but also like, that's something that can really be it can damage a relationship depending on how it's said and how it's delivered. So I hope that there was some caution in how you said that, if you said it. So he proposed a few months after you all had this conversation, although nothing had changed. And it makes me wonder if he felt like that was what you wanted. Like, what more do you want from me? And my Tyrese voice is what it sounds like it's giving. And he thought that everything was cool. I don't know how he thought everything was cool if nothing changed. So I definitely get the frustration with that. And it sounds like you were honest with him about needing things to change. So maybe he thought that that was the solution. Sometimes people feel like marriage or a baby can help fix things. And really, those things can be a Band-Aid, because then we're going on this roller coaster ride and we're at the top again, but we really haven't dealt with the core issues. So I'm glad that you were firm in setting the boundary of like, no, we're not moving forward. We are stagnant right here. So I think that is really great that you set that boundary. I'm sure it was really hard to do. So again, I want to say like that was definitely something that, I think you made the right decision on, it sounds like. Now he's saying I always blame him and want him to change, and that it's not him, it's me. He probably really feels that way. He probably really feels that way. And I'm not saying that that's what you're doing, but what he's hearing is all the criticism. And sometimes, in partnerships, people can feel like, well, what am I doing right? I can't do anything right. And so they withdraw more and withdraw more. And they do, this is when we might see, okay, you're on the game all the time or you're always gone, because they don't know how to emotionally engage when they aren't, when they're being feeling criticized. Let me say, feeling criticized, when in reality, it sounds like you're just letting him know that, hey, things are not working the way that they are right now. You said he thinks he's a great partner because he goes to work every day and doesn't cheat, which is a great thing for a partner to do. I think that is the bare minimum. That is what's expected. And you also said that you feel like it's not that hard to put effort into what you're asking for. But I'd say maybe for him it is, because maybe he doesn't know how to really do that. And that sounds simple enough, but sometimes people really struggle with, like, you may feel like you're saying something really clearly, but I always tell people in relationships, we're a lot of times speaking different languages, especially in heteronormative relationships. A lot of times men and women are speaking very different languages. And I would encourage you to, if you want to work on this relationship or see if it's worth saving, or just figure out what to do with it, couples therapy can be really helpful, because it will give you a space where you can both be heard, where you can also hear each other. And a good couples therapist is going to be able to create space for you both to be seen and heard, but also help you learn how to hear each other and how to connect with each other. And you said he isn't willing to take the responsibility to work on things. And again, that is another signal to me that he's withdrawing and shutting down. And very likely what you've shared with him is not landing, because he is probably feeling, really a lot of shame or guilt, or feeling like a failure in this, because he's not able to meet your needs for whatever reason. I'm kind of leaning on, it's possible that, he could be intimidated by you. He could be intimidated by you. Just from this, you sound like you have really big energy, like you don't mind saying what you want. And the very thing that probably attracted him to you, because he probably loves and admires that about you, also the flame might be too hot for him as he's closer to it. So he would probably want to get into individual therapy as well, to work on some of those confidence issues and really work on some of the identity things that it sounds like are coming up for him. And you never fought or argued, and y'all been together for a few years. That's almost concerning. And not that I think that couples should be in constant conflict, but conflict is natural. And it's not whether a couple fights, it's how a couple fights that makes the difference. And for you all to never have gotten to a place where you've really had a disagreement or had a fight, right? Because fights can be done healthy. It's how you fight as a couple that matters. If you've never had any of that, that tells me that a lot of things are being suppressed. So again, I'm going back to saying that it sounds like a lot of emotional suppression is happening, and probably has been happening for him for a really long time. If you think this relationship is worth saving and you want to give it a try, I would strongly encourage you to get into couples therapy, find somebody in your state that's licensed. I always encourage couples to see a marriage and family therapist, because we specialize in relational dynamics and relationships. And you're going to really be able to get some tools around really working together, because of the way that we as marriage and family therapists really see people and relationships. And that's why I chose that vein of mental health, because marriage and family therapists really look at systems, and not just the me, but the me and we, and how that's all interconnected. So I would encourage you all to try couples therapy, and also find out if your couples therapist is actually happy in their own relationship, because that makes a huge difference. I feel like when it comes to getting help from somebody when you have an issue like this, you really want to get aligned with a therapist that really is balanced in their own life. So that's my encouragement. Thank you so much for writing that and for sharing it. And have an amazing week. And remember to take some time to really balance your energy, take some time for yourself. And really, I want to encourage y'all to exercise more love and less judgment for yourself. And that can flow into all of your exchanges with everyone else. And until next time, stay real, stay free, stay woke. Peace.
It's Real Talk with the Spiritual Bestie.